Hello, I'm Mark. Today I'm going to show you how to fit some SPARKA hardware to a fire door. This particular one we have is an oak-faced, solid fire door. One important thing about fire doors is that sometimes they're made so one side is the lock side and one side is the hinge side. You must make sure it's the right way around. Also, the other thing to notice is if it's a panel like this, you have a large base plate, and also the top piece is smaller, so that obviously the smaller piece goes to the top. And also on the top of the door, you'll find there's a label. This clearly states it's an FD30 fire door. It's very important when you're fitting fire doors that it has that label. We're going to have 2 hinges at the top. It's very important on a fire door because all fire doors have 3 hinges. Some are equally spaced, but particularly when you have a door closer on a fire door, it's important that 2 are near the top. So we're going to fit 2 hinges, one at 200 down, then 200 to the next one, to the centre, and the bottom one is fitted at 300 up, as per the instructions in our leaflet. Now also today, I'm going to fit these hinges. The top 2 I'm going to do with a router, and the bottom one I'm going to do with a traditional hammer and chisel. But first of all, before you start the hinges, it's important that the door fits in the frame. Now I've got my door in place, what we need is a gap between 2.5 to 4 millimeters on both sides and the top. What I tend to work to is a 3mm gap, with a 3mm packet on one side, got a 3mm space on the top, and I need to check the other side to make sure I've got a 3mm all the way down. So this I want planing in if required. So by doing this, I put my 3mm spacer in where it touches, mark it with a pencil and plane the rest. So run that up until it's tight. Little pencil mark. I can now plane those top and bottom in to make it fit neat all the way around. Now I've got the door marked, top and bottom, I know where to start the planing from. I'm going to plane it in so that the door edge and the door frame run a nice even 3mm gap all the way. Sometimes door frames are just slightly twisted, sometimes they're just slightly out, or the door slightly out. Whichever way around it is, it wants to be neat, so you don't want it to catch later on. Once you've planed your door down to the amount you want, you'll find that you've taken the harris off. This door comes with the harris on it already, which is the corner of the door. It's already been taken off a little bit. That helps with decorations later, because a sharp corner can't be decorated, the paint doesn't stick, or the varnish. So I like to take the harris back off again, so just take the little edge off. Just as simple as that, to blend it in. And same the other side. And also on the bottom corner, if you take a little bit there, just stops it getting caught and it can be decorated. Once you're happy with that, it can be sanded in. But before I sand it in, I always double check it back in the doorway. I might just need to trim again, or we might be happy at that. Now we've got the door all planed and sanded in. I've double checked to make sure the gaps all around it are nice and neat and clean. 3mm all the way around, top and 2 sides. Now I'm ready to put the hinges on. On a fire door, it's a minimum of 3 hinges, often fitted at equal distances. But on this door, we're having a door closer fitted as well. So it's very important that the extra strain that's taken on the top of the door is taken by the hinges. So we fit 2 hinges near the top, the first one being 200 millimeters from the top of the door to the center, and the second one from the center to the center is another 200 millimeters. These 2 hinges I'm going to do with a router. On the bottom of the door, we're going to fit a hinge at 300 millimeters up from the bottom of the door to the center of the hinge. That hinge I'm going to do with traditional chisel and hammer, chipping away in a traditional way, to give you an idea as to how this is done. When using a router, you need to set out the hinges to match the instruction leaflet on the hinges. That is to say, from the top of the door to the first hinge is 200 millimeters. From the center of that hinge to the next one is 200 millimeters. Now, when using a router, of course, you need to set the jig up, not the door. So we've marked out and made a jig already. This one I've made to match our template, but you can get jigs off the market, readily available to use and adjust to match as required. On here, we have the thickness of the hinge. Don't forget, when you have a hinge pad for fire doors, which is common, you do need to make sure allowance for that thickness. So we have a 3mm hinge, a 1mm hinge pad, which gives you 4mm. So I'll set my router up to 4mm deep, and we can router the hinges out accordingly. Just before I start, I'd make sure I got my goggles on and my gloves. So now we're on to the second hinge. Router's still set up, so away we go. Using a router, of course, will mean that the corners are rounded, which is quite normal. So when you take the clamp off, you can use a corner chisel to remove the corner, or traditionally you could use your ordinary chisel, hand chisel. Simple as that. Make sure it's clean in the corner. Cleans it out. When fitting a fire door, it's important that the hinges have hinge pads on them. These are available pre-cut, self-adhesive, and just stick on the back. Very simply, on the back of the hinge, pre-cut to size. One on each flap or leaf. And it fits neat to the size of the hinge. Like so. So they're ready. SPARKA hinges are a 5-knuckle hinge. 2 parts are on one side and 3 on the other. The 2 parts go on the door. So check they fit in the slot neatly. Pilot drill the holes and put the screws in. I use one of these plunge drills. You can line it up. Using one of those type of drills, it just helps to get this drill in the centre, the pilot hole. As this is an oak blipping, it's very important that you do pilot drill a hole because you don't want the wood to split. So that's the one hinge, second hinge, double knuckle on the door. So that's your top two hinges ready now for hanging in the door frame. On the bottom of the door, we're going to set the hinge at 300mm to the centre point, measured up from the bottom. At this point, we can mark then round the hinge, set the depth gauge, and chisel it out. The depth of the hinge is obviously the thickness of the hinge and the intermescent hinge pad. I like to take the bulk of the material out first on the chipping out. Then this gives it somewhere for the wood to go. When you chisel the back, I'll show you in a second. it. Remember to pilot drill it as before, because the wood is a very hard wood here, so it helps to get the screws in without splitting. That's it done. Now we've got the hinges all fixed on the door, we've offered it back into place. We've got a 3mm spacer at the top to get the right height, but the top 2 hinges, of course, were done with a router and a router template, so we don't need to mark those 2. In this case, we're just going to mark the bottom hinge, where we're going to traditionally chisel it and hammer it out. So I've just marked the top and bottom of the hinge. Put a little line between. That's not the depth, but just a little line so I know where to chisel out. So I can now take the door back away, router out the top ones with the template, and including putting a 3mm spacer in the top of the template to the right height, and I'll chisel the bottom out and we're good to go. Put the back door back in again. The top 2 hinges we were done with a router. So I use the same template on the top of the door frame. When you lift it up, you have to remember you need a 3mm gap between the door and the frame. So I'll put a 3mm packer in, and then clamp it on. Just double check the packet is correct and not come loose. Template's form, ready to go, and we can put the router through. So now we can start routering out the hinges on the top. The template is all fixed firmly, and we need to, first of all, need to make sure we've got the right depth. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to router it out and we'll see how we go. As this has already got a groove down here for the intermescent to go through, you don't need to take the corner out as it's already taken the out already. I can clean that up and fit the hinge. What I like to do is take another spare hinge if you have, try it in the hole, pilot drill the holes first before putting the door in. So the bottom hinge, we're going to fix the door frame, position it where it was from the marks top and bottom, and also with the depth gauge, if you run your pencil down the depth gauge mark, makes it easier to see where it is. One thing to bear in mind is that the size of the leaf is 30 millimeters. This is the same dimension on the door frame. There's a 15mm piece of wood there. There's a 15mm groove. So that takes it exactly to the edge of the groove, which is really handy. So now, having got the hinges all cut out, I'm going to pilot drill the holes. It's a lot easier when you put the door into place. Now we need to offer the door into place and put a couple of screws in to hold it and see how it swings. Now we've got the door into place, just adjust it for level, make sure the hinges are in properly, and we're going to put one screw in each hinge to make sure it's working correctly. So having got one screw in each hinge, I'm now going to check the gaps around the edge are all looking good. Yeah, they're good. So now put the rest of the screws in. Following on, the next thing to do is to install a 3-lever sash lock. This one is a 76mm lock case. So we measure from the bottom of the door to the centre of the spindle, 1 metre. Mark that on the door, offer the lock case up to the door and mark the top and bottom of the case. This will give you the amount you need to take out with the drill. You can then mark the side of the door, pilot drill it and drill it through. We always drill in the centre of the door. And the diameter of the drill bit is to match the thickness of the lock case. However, this is a fire door, so we need to add the fireproof gasket. This is self-adhesive and fastens around the lock case, ultimately giving its increased thickness. That thickness, instead of 16mm lock case, becomes an 18mm lock case. So we fit the drill bit in to suit. So having got the old chisel out clean, we need to mark the face of the door so it's clear where the spindle goes through, where the keyhole is. The centre of the spindle, we said, is at 1 metre. So you can put a faint mark on there. And then using a square, you can run it across. And putting the lock case On the side, you can look through the centre and make a mark. Of course, don't forget, when you do that, to allow for the thickness of the face plate. When it's all flush on the face of the door, face plate on there. That will give you the centre hole to drill out the centre there. Then you can mark out where the keyhole is. The keyhole is in line with the centre there. It's also a set distance down from there. Having marked out the face of the door, I can now drill. I'm going to put a pilot hole through, then I can put a big hole through. So in the centre point that I marked, and the keyway, so clean out the hole again, drop the lock in, and we've now got to mark out the face plate so we can sink that in so it's nice and flush when it's finished, and that should be in line with the other holes. As I said before, when you put the case in, put the face plate on and make sure it's flush with the door. Just needs a little bit more trimming. Now you can just pilot drill the hole and put the fixings in. Inside the keep plate, you will have all the fittings required for the door lock and for the keep plate itself. Now, I'm not going to fix that in yet because I've got to fit the handle. And when I fit the handle, I need to put further fixings through for the handle. So apart from that, the lock is now complete. The only thing to do is the latch. But I always find it easier to put the handle on first, then you can work the lock, make sure it's all working, and then fit the keep plate to the door frame. The only other thing you need to check is that the latch itself is going the right way. This is very easy to do. Remove the faceplate, turn it round, and put the faceplate back. That is now complete. When you're fitting a lever on rows, it's very important that you check first the size of the lock case. In our example, we have a 76mm lock case. So on the fitting instructions for the handle, you'll see 2 dotted lines. When you have a 76mm lock case, you need it a longer distance. So you fold on that line. If you had a 64mm lock case, you'd fold it on the other line. So we'll stick with this one for this example. A little trick, I've taken a piece of paper out there, little hole, because at that point there, we fit the handle at 1 metre from the bottom of the door. So I've measured up 1 metre and put a mark, and before we fix the handle in, we have to do some drilling. So it's very important you take the lock case out. So then we can put that on the side of the door, line it up to the correct height, and put a pilot hole through where the centre is and where the fixing positions are. So I can do it this side, and then I'll do the same the other side. On this lever handle, the first thing to do is to fix the bolt-through fixings. If needed, or if preferred, you can also fix extra fixings on the position where the little E is. They're extra fixing positions. The lever handle takes a lot of pressure and there's a lot of pull on it. So while I've got a little pilot drill out, I'm going to drill my extra holes for the extra screws. The holes for the bolt-through fixings, the first 2 are marked, should be a 5mm hole. And that needs to go all the way through the door. Having drilled out all the holes for the handle, including the extra pilot holes on both sides of the door, and now I just need to finish off the keyway. A little slot in the bottom so the key can fit in. Obviously clean out any debris that's in the bottom there, and we're right ready to put the whole thing back together. And in doing that, first thing to put together is the intermittent gasket that goes round the door case. So that is going to wrap around the lock case, and we can slide it inside and fix the lock. Then we can fit the handle, and then we can fit the keyhole escutcheons. Now we can put the whole thing assembly together. The lock and the handle and the keyhole escutcheons. As we put the lock case in, it's important that we put the intumescent gasket around the lock case. This comes pre-stamped with all the shapes out. So it's ready to go straight onto your lock case. The hole in the bottom is for the keyway. The hole in the top matches where the handle is. It's self-adhesive, and we stick it onto the lock case. Wrap around onto the other side. Don't forget, the top and the bottom is all wrapped together. And that can now be slid into the hole. Make sure the latch is the right way still. Faceplate on and fix into place. So with the handles, first we remove the rose. Then you can put the spindle in and put it into the handle through the lock case, and do the same the other side. So remove the rose and keep handy. Put the two handles together. Now you will notice the shape of the handle. It has to go that way around for it to work. You can't check it on there. It has a spring inside, so it'll go like that way around. There's two bolt-through fixings, one for this side and one for the other side. Line them up and tighten them together. So that's got the two bolt-through fixings done. And you check, make sure it's all working nicely. And you can now fix the additional screws. When you fit the roses on, make sure it's nice and flat. The keyhole escutcheon comes complete with the rose. So first, remove the rose and put the keyhole with the key in the lock. This helps to line it up. So holding it nice and central, square, You can then put the fixings in. Check it's square. The key fits. Put the other screws in. When you've got the fixings on, put the rows on and do the same the other side of the door. Check it all works. And there you have a handle and a keyless cushion all fitted. When it comes to fitting the keep, it's important to get the right height to match with the latch and the deadbolt. So if we put the door to the door frame and mark the top and bottom of latch and deadbolt, that gives us the height. Having got the height, we can then measure from the face of the door to the position of the latch. And that measurement we can mark on the door frame. So from the front marks, we take these across onto the door frame. And with the measurement from the face of the door frame, we can measure back then we know the key will go in that space. Line it up. Mark the top and the bottom, the top and bottom of the plate there, because we're going to make a hole that size. It's important when fitting a fire door key that you don't take more material out than necessary. As of course this is a fire door, we don't want to take a bigger hole than needed. So you measure the depth of the lock, the latch, and the deadbolt. Make sure we get the right depth. When you're happy that all works, you can then fit the faceplate onto the door frame. Measure, mark round it and trim it in. I like to put a line down the face. Just makes it simple and clean and flat. You can see where you're going. Sometimes the wood grain can play tricks on you. And this grain is going inwards. So that's why I keep chipping it from the top. As you'll notice, there's always a bevel round on the faceplate. The faceplate has a curve to it. You have to take a little corner out of the face there. So once I've got the chiseling done, I have a piece of intumescent that goes in the bottom of the lock keep hole. It's very important this goes in. So that goes in the bottom. Self-adhesive, sticks in there. I can now put the face plate on, which is very simply, goes in there. Pilot drill my holes. And I tend to put this in with a hand screwdriver. So it's just nice and flush. Nice and flush there. And double check the door works. When that's closed like that, the door should be flush with the door frame, which it is. And make sure the key lock works. And we're good to go to the next step. When installing the stop lat, it's a good idea to shut the door against the latch, put the stop lat cut to size into place, and between the door face and the stop lat, put a little packer of 1mm. This is for decoration purposes at a later date. So we'll shut the door with it there and tack it in place. One product of a fire door is the intumescent strip. It's self-adhesive and fits into a groove. Very simply, lift into place, trim to size, pull off the tape and fix in. The rest of the intumescent has all been done. That's the final bit, and it's ready to go. Fitting an S30 door closer from SPARKA. It comes with two fitting instructions. The one with the dotted lines on is the one for fitting on the push side of the door, so when you push the door open. The plain one comes for fitting on the pull side of the door, so when you pull the door open or pull towards you. So today we're going to use the plain one. When you're fitting on the pull side of the door, you have the plain instruction. The black plain line fits between the door and the frame. So if you fasten it onto the door, it makes it easier for pilot drilling, the holes, the fixing screws, for the arm into the frame and the body into the door itself. So the top line runs along between the door and the arm. The side line runs down where the hinges are. So there's the picture of the body. You can see which way around it is, with the pinion towards the hinge. The 4 fixing positions, that's the body and the door. And there's 2 fixing positions here for the arm. If you fasten the template on a little lower on the door, it helps to get the door closed, the body and the arm the right way around. So we've put the template on, it's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, fixing instructions. Put the template on, you now fix the arm to the body. So there's the body, fits that way around. The arm has a square drive. That fits at 90 degrees to the door closer. So on the top at 90, like that. The fixing screw goes inside and fastens into the pinion. With the 4 long wood screws, you can fix through the body into those pre-drilled holes. The secondary arm has a long shoe plate. The long side goes towards the hinge and is fixed to the door frame. At the bottom of the plate there's 2 fixing bolts. These are to be removed now so you can fix it together in place. So the long side of the shoe towards the hinge with the fixings into the door frame. Now we need to open the door and make sure the 2 arms go into each other. Then reclose the door so the arms come together. In the top, there's two fixings that we've taken out previously. These need fixing in tight, but when you fix it in tight, that part of the arm, that needs to be 90 degrees from the door frame. So that secondary part of the arm, 90 degrees to the door frame. So just tightening both bolts. Nice and firm. Now the door closer should be ready to work. Straight from the factory settings, it'll work and want just minor adjustments. We have 4 valves on this door closer. 2 are the main ones. The closing valve from 90 degree open to 15 degree, and the latch valve, which is from 15 degree to closed. Now we've fitted the door closer, we can try it from 90 degrees open, to closed position, should be between 5 and 7 seconds. The latch at the end can be adjusted. That's closing nicely. If you need to adjust it, the closing valve, you turn it clockwise to slow it down and anti-clockwise to increase it. And the latch valve on the end is the same. Closing clockwise to slow it down and anti-clockwise to increase it. Then you're ready to put the door closer cover on. The cover has 2 pop-out pieces, depending on which hand you're on. Take out the correct one that matches where the arm is, and then it has clips on the bottom to stop the vibration. Also, it has a fixing in the top if you want for extra security. And that is the door furniture finishes, apart from just the fire door keep shut signs or similar. So that's all the hardware fitted, including the fire door keep shut signs or appropriate signage. If you want any more help, please give us a call or visit our website. Thank you for watching.